Cleveland memories of their own today. Live from the Burt Lakefront Airport in Cleveland, Ohio, ABC Sports presents the 6th running of the Cleveland Grand Prix. You're looking at Terminal Tower, one of the familiar silhouettes that makes up the skyline of Cleveland. And that is the backdrop today for this temporary racetrack city they've constructed for the holding of this race. A crowd estimated at 50,000 watching 25 cars going for it today under partly sunny skies in Cleveland. This ABC Sports exclusive is being brought to you by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. And by Budweiser, Beechwood Aged for that clear, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. There are ways to see this race, and then there are ways to see this race. Along the shore of Lake Erie in the backstretch, literally hundreds of boats, sailing boats, and motor yachts have gathered to watch this race. And, of course, there are those who have found the grandstand more comfortable. Now, this week, the fastest car was driven by Roberto Guerrero. He set a track record on this track, by the way, which is the fastest road circuit that kart runs. Let's go down to Roberto now with Jack Arute.
Well, Al, as we said at the outset, if Bobby Rahal is the favorite going into this race, then this gentleman, Roberto Guerrero, has got to be considered the co-favorite. A new track record here, but some unreliability in the engine compartment the last couple of races, Roberto. Are you concerned today about it at all?
Well, Jack, obviously you can never tell for sure, but we feel very confident that a lot has been done about the problem, and I feel very confident that the engine will make it all the way. So hopefully we'll be, quite happy at the end of the race. I hope so.
What about the heat today? It's beginning to go up. Are you concerned at all about the heat?
Well, it's just going to make us all sweat a little bit more, but it shouldn't really be a problem. It'll be the same for everybody, so I don't think that will be a factor.
Interesting to note that he and one other man have accounted for all the pole positions this year. That other man, Mario Andretti. Let's go back up to Al Trautwig.
All right, Jack, we are ready for the traditional command that will send the pit crew scurrying. And the man who will speak those famous words today is the mayor of Cleveland, George Voinovich.
And has worked long and hard to keep this event at Cleveland for that command. Gentlemen, start your engines.
And these 25 cars rumble to life. You're looking at Bobby Rahal, one of many favorites. He will start from the front row today. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Al Trautwig in Cleveland. You know, it doesn't seem to matter whether you're at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway or at a temporary track like this at the Burt Lakefront Airport. When they say, gentlemen, start your engines, you get a special feeling because you know what lies ahead. This is a very special track for two special drivers. You see, in 1982, Bobby Rahal came here looking for his first win, and he got it. Danny Sullivan was in the same situation in 1984. He got his first win here. Both drivers went on to win the Indy 500, and it makes you wonder whether history would repeat itself. Other things to consider, though, and to talk about some of those is Sam Posey. Sam, we've spoken to the front row man, Pedro Guerrero. Bobby Rahal's a strong favorite. He's won all those races. Where will the challenge come from?
I think you have only to look to the second row, to Mario Andretti and his son Michael. Michael's in the middle of a fine season. He's won a race already, and he's trailing championship leader Rahal by only a small number of points. For Mario, however, the going has been much rougher. Sure, he started the season at Long Beach with a win, and things looked really good out. But then you know what happened at Indianapolis. He came this close to winning that much-coveted second Indy, and then broke down right at the end. And then, a week later at Milwaukee, crashed, injuring his back. And that injury still plagues him today. It's a long, hot, and bumpy race. It's going to be a long day for Mario Andretti. But worst of all, I think, facing the success that Bobby Rahal is having at this point in the season. Having lost Indy, Mario knows the only thing he can really salvage from the season is a victory in the championship. And unless he can do something really quick about Bobby Rahal, Mario's going to lose the championship, too.
As you saw, the cars have rumbled to life and are moving out from pit road. 2 pace laps in this race will be underway. On the other side of me today is Bobby Unser, one of the greatest men to ever slide into an Indy car. Bobby, what other factors are interesting for you today?
Very interesting. First 2 rows again. Everybody in the first 2 rows has been nothing but winners this year. In other words, all the races this year, with the exception of the Indianapolis, which my brother won, is in the first 2 rows. Another thing, Mario Andretti had a big advantage. Everybody blamed it on the Lola cars at Indianapolis. Today, it's Lola, March, all mixed up in the first 2 rows. So nobody can say there's an advantage or disadvantage. Then you have the engine.
3 of the first 2 rows are Cosworth, 1 Chevrolet. Chevrolet has won another race earlier this year, Long Beach, 200-mile race. They could be a factor today, Al.
Now, Bobby, can history repeat itself? Is there someone who could win their first IndyCar race today in the field?
Yes, there definitely is. I'm going to pick the dark horse, Jeff Brabham, in the Honda-powered car in the 4th row. He's a dark horse.
All right, 25 cars are out on the track, and of course that means there are 25 drivers with 25 different stories. There are, of course, many interesting things to note about these drivers as they weave their way around. How many races have they won? What's at stake for them today? Here then is the starting field in the Cleveland Grand Prix. Roberto Guerrero's speed gives him the pole position and a track speed record. Bobby Rahal drives the course that gave him his first Indy win. Mario Andretti has won 48 races over 24 years, but never in Cleveland. Right next to him, his son Michael Andretti, a winner in Milwaukee in May. If Emerson Fittipaldi wins, he'll tell you about it in 5 different languages. Danny Sullivan, who could really use a win, will go for it on a track he's won on twice. In the 4th row is Kevin Kogan, who hadn't finished a race this year until last weekend. And one of only 2 drivers in the field using a Japanese engine, Jeff Brabham. The Dutchman, Arie Luyendyk, is in row 5, and next to him, Al Unser Jr. On his dad, he says, he taught me everything I know, but he hasn't taught me everything he knows. Rick Mears has almost won $4 million driving an Indy car. Next to him, Canadian-born rookie Ludwig Heimrath Jr. Tom Sneva crashed yesterday, but his car is ready to roll today. Fabrizio Barbazza, 3rd place in the Indy 500. Jose Garza of Mexico City. Scott Goodyear with the best name in the field. Sophomore driver Jeff McPherson. The Irishman Derek Daly, 8 miles per hour slower than the front row. Johnny Rutherford in his 2nd quarter-century of racing. 53-year-old Dick Simon. Randy Lewis will be running 4 from the back with veteran Tony Bettenhausen. Last year, John Richards raced snowmobiles. That's no snowmobile he's driving today. Rick Muskiewicz pilots a low-budget machine, and finishing is a legitimate goal for Dale Coyne. As you can see, these cars now are moving in front of the grandstand, completing lap 1 of 2 pace laps, which will get this race underway. 80 laps, 25 cars are starting. Estimated total purse, $450,000. The average qualifying speed, just over 130 miles an hour. The cars, however, will reach top speeds of about 160 in certain straight portions of the course, but of course they lose a lot on the average speed for a lot of the tight current turns that you'll find on this circuit. As I've said, it's a fast circuit, and there's a lot to tell you about it. Some of the nuances involved are interesting. Sam Posey and Bobby Unser take us around the course.
Well, Sam, this is the flattest track that I know of in the entire circuit, but I think the most interesting places on it are number 2 turn and number 5 turn. Number 2 turn because the cars are accelerating off and they're in 2nd gear, and it's very hard on the transmissions. Down the back straightaway into turn 5, slipstreaming, and this is the place where most of the passing occurs.
And, Bobby, most of the crashing occurs over here right after turn 10 because there's a big wall on the outside of the track, and frequently cars go into that. There's an invisible problem right here between turn 11 and turn 12, a big bump in the track which often gets cars airborne, and more importantly is the cause for retirement of cars due to transmission and half-track trouble.
The cars are moving out of turn 8 into turn 9 and 10 of the 12 turns on this course. The weather's been changing. Very hot, very humid today, 85 degrees. The wind has been kicking up a little bit lately, but it's averaging about 5 miles per hour. Chance of rain is 60%, but we have been told that there are thunderstorms in the area. You are now in the race car of Bobby Rahal, firmly entrenched in the front row. And interesting, the only car in front of him is the pace car. Guess who's driving it? Al Unser, this year's Indy 500 champion. And we're going to drop back now further in the field to Tom Sneva. He is in row 7, car number 33. A lot of bumpy areas in the track that we'll get a good chance to focus in on today. Some of the cars weaving back and forth, trying to warm their tires up. You're now inside the car of Al Unser Jr. Boy, I tell you, the Unser family well represented here again in Cleveland.
Boy, they sure are, Al, and he's real anxious to do good here. During yesterday's practice, he thinks his car is working a little bit better after the qualifications. Here they come down for the start now, Al.
25 cars across the start-finish line, and this one is underway. Remember, 80 laps. The track measures 2.48 miles.
Roberto Guerrero grabbing the lead, Al, as they come out of turn 2 and down into turn 3 here. A second gear, 40-mile-an-hour right-hand bend that leads them out onto one of the fastest, two fast parts of the track.
Mario Andretti was able to get in front of Bobby Rahal, and behind Rahal is Michael Andretti. So it's Andretti in second place, Andretti in fourth place, and the pole sitter, Roberto Guerrero, is playing true to his form earlier this week with the fastest car. He is in front.
Boy, he really did a start on that one, Al. He kind of decided the start was going to happen before the flag was thrown, and he really took off like a jackrabbit. He's leaving them very far behind right now. At times during the year, Al, this man has been able to demonstrate a mastery over the others in terms of sheer speed that no one else, not even Rahal and not even Andretti, except a little bit at Indy, was able to do.
So it is still Mario Andretti in second, Bobby Rahal in third, Michael Andretti in fourth. Already a car slowing down in the backstretch.
I don't know who that is right now, Al. He's about as far away from us as he can get, but already we had a car out. Roberto's leading by probably about a 1.5 second right now. Probably hold his pace right there. Fuel is going to be a big thing today. Maybe a shortage of fuel and maybe gearbox too, Bobby. Don't you agree? Look at how rough the track is there. Pouring 750 horsepower through the gearbox over those bumps can easily damage the gearbox and lead to a retirement. If you see a car, Al, close to a stop out there with no smoke, it's probably gearbox.
They're in the car of Bobby Rahal. Watch the way this track jostles him around. Rahal currently in third place. That's Mario Andretti just in front of him there. What is that? About a 1.5 second, maybe less than that, advantage for Andretti over Rahal.
But notice how far ahead Roberto Guerrero has already pulled. Bobby in third can't even see him across this wide open track. So Guerrero has made an incredible start. It's a very competitive year of racing, and for someone to show that kind of extra speed, look at how bumpy it is here. Bobby has to pull away from the wall as they come down the next to last straight. That's the pit in there on the left. Now he pulls back to the left and goes into turn 11. The next to last turn, there's 12, turn 12, and that's the start-finish line there. About 130 miles an hour through there. Well, Sam, as you brought up earlier, this is a transmission-killing racetrack. Historically, everybody breaks transmissions here. Engines are secondary, so I think right now what you see is Roberto only goes out so far, kind of stays there. He doesn't want to see how much lead he can get. You see Mario pacing himself, and you also see Bobby Rahal really not trying to run like at the last lap of the race, because he realizes a finish is very important here.
Still, it's Roberto Guerrero, who came from 22nd place to win at Phoenix this year, then had the disastrous engine stall twice on pit road that cost him, I believe, the Indianapolis 500, and he's been struggling ever since. So, the Cleveland Grand Prix is underway. Roberto Guerrero is the leader. We've got 78 laps to go. Back live in Cleveland, the Cleveland Grand Prix, and the tightest battle and the most important battle right now is for second and third place. Mario Andretti with Bobby Rahal right behind.
That is Bettenhausen, Al, and you see the left rear tire has shredded and damaged part of the car, the little winglet there. He's riding on the rim, probably driving along on that rim still at about 40 or 50 miles an hour. Look at how stiff the chassis is. And all right, this is Fabrizio Barbazza. Interesting story here, Al. This man has run up to this point more laps in IndyCar racing this year than anyone else. He was the Rookie of the Year at Indianapolis, where he finished third. This is the first time all year he's dropped out of a racing. Here's out of a race. Here's Bettenhausen making it back to the pits. He's probably going 70 miles an hour there. Now, as he's coming, as Bettenhausen's coming around, no tire on there. It's kind of important to notice he's wearing the bottom off the race car too, Al. The race car has to be on the tire, otherwise the back of the pan is just going to wear down.
Car number 5 is Mario Andretti, the red car with the yellow writing. The red car with the white writing is Bobby Rahal. That's the battle for second and third, and already 3 cars have struggled too definitely out of the race. We do not know whether Tony Bettenhausen will be able to return. Dale Coyne, who was a last-minute addition by the promoter of the Cleveland Grand Prix, fell out in, I believe, the first lap. And also Bettenhausen is out too.
Coyne was out with gearbox trouble, which hints at what may be ahead for some of the front runners. Now, remember that this rivalry between Andretti on the right of the screen, now on the left of the screen, and Bobby Rahal on the right in the darker car is a very intense one. And Andretti, of course, the veteran champion, man whose career was already a major success at the time when Bobby Rahal even began his career. And this has become a very intense rivalry. You cannot say these two men are terribly fond of each other. And Rahal has, of course, Andretti just where he wants him, calmly in his sights. Mario knows that to have any break in the championship out, he's got to stay ahead. He's got to score points today.
Now, the one thing I noticed, Bobby and Sam, is that it seems as though Mario and Bobby have very different ways of negotiating this course.
They certainly do, and you can see that Bobby Rahal is starting to make a play on Mario occasionally. He tries to pass. What he wants Mario to do, he doesn't particularly care if he passes him right now, Al. He wants him to pick up his pace just a little bit more. Mario obviously could go faster, but he's trying to take care of his transmission. And Fabrizio's, Barbaza's car, we just heard, did drop out from transmission failure. So already we have 2 transmission failures. Very much what Sam and I were predicting early in the race.
You keep your eye on the right hand of Bobby Rahal. You can see when he goes down to shift, you can also see the way he struggles with that steering wheel through each and every one of these 12 turns.
Yeah, it's so bumpy over the turn that the car tends to flick almost out of control. The reason for this is the track is laid out on runways and taxiways at this airport here, and it's all on landfill out in Lake Erie, and it's settled differently. And of course, as Bobby, as a pilot himself, knows well, runways are not laid out flat anyway. They're tipped a little bit for drainage. As you watch Bobby Rahal run behind Mario there, you'll see Mario on the straightaways move off line. I just wanted to mention that, Sam, because what he's trying to do is keep Bobby Rahal from slipstreaming him too much and just getting any advantage. Now they're coming off of turn 3 on the what we call the long back straightaway. This is where most of the passing occurs from slipstreaming. Now let's see if he pulls up on Mario now. 5th gear there. That, despite the openness of the track, you see him almost coming inside. That was a brief burst at almost 180 miles an hour out there, and it's the one part of the track that is the hardest for the driver to find a rhythm in, Al, because he's not closely confined by the edges of the track. He's wide out, open in the middle of an expanse, and you have to really think where you are each and every lap.
Are all the different lines that make up the runway and the taxiways as you cross them, is that disorienting?
Well, no, actually, well, Bobby's going to say, yeah, I was just going to say that no, you need some lines to orient you where you are out there because it's just a big, empty expanse. Well, what it is there's airplane marks out there. Those are disorienting. But what Sam is talking about is the black marks going into a turn like right there we saw are braking marks from the cars. Now they need those. That kind of tells them how deep they can go into the turn, Bill.
All right, we're in the 9th lap and already Roberto Guerrero, the leader in the Cleveland Grand Prix, is lapping cars. I should tell you that Tony Bettenhausen, who limped his way into the pits, had a fairly quick pit stop and is back out onto the race. In the 9th lap, Roberto Guerrero, Mario Andretti, Bobby Rahal. There is the leader as we continue live on the shores of Lake Erie. Every year, the Swallows return to San Juan Capistrano, which is the home of Roberto Guerrero, as he attempts to return to the winner's circle for the 2nd time this year. A winner at Phoenix. We are here in Cleveland, and he is leading the Cleveland Grand Prix.
You know, in many ways, Al, Roberto Guerrero, who you see here, is the discovery of the last couple of seasons. You know, he's not one of these guys that gets where he is by great aggression or arrogance. He is a man with no grudges. He is a friend to everyone. His Colombian personality is so outgoing and wonderful. He, in many ways, reminds me of the late and very great Jim Clark, the Scots driver that won the World Championship a couple of times back in the 60s. Roberto Guerrero, only 28 years old, with an enormous future. Well, without doubt, Sam, Roberto is what we call the hot setup. Between he and his team, right now, they are the team to beat. And, of course, it's showing right up here in Cleveland today. Roberto is totally dominating. Look at the car jump right there. He's totally dominating this race, and he just has every race so far this year. Dang near won Indianapolis, too.
So the man from Colombia originally continues to lead this race. It has been a very up and down year for him. As I said, the disappointment of Indianapolis, the win earlier in this year, and then in the last 3 races, no points were earned at all by Roberto Guerrero. We spoke to him about the problems he's been having lately.
They've been working very hard on it, and you know, we believe we've made some progress, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of reliability. you know, I have to commend the team on the other side. You know, the chassis side has been very, very reliable. We haven't had any problems at all with that, and it's been very competitive. Every time we've been out, we've been super competitive. So I think if we get a little bit of engine reliability, which, as I said, you know, they've been doing a lot of work on, hopefully we can start finishing some races.
So Roberto Guerrero continues in front. You see the lead he holds over Mario Andretti and Bobby Rahal.
Yes, and Al, I just want to mention the problems that he's talking about the engines this year. I talked to Vince Granatelli at length yesterday about it. It's been piston braking problems, not something that's common with a Cosworth engine. But nonetheless, he's blessed with it, and I think you call all of that racing luck.
He's a soft-spoken man. He's the kind of guy you talk to for a couple of minutes and you know right away you like him. We hear that there is a problem with car number 7, Kevin Kogan. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
Well, Al, it's been an extended stay on pit road for Kevin Kogan. They lifted the bonnet. They're now reattaching it. It seems that there is a problem with the ignition system. They've looked it over, checked the spark box, and it will now have to be determined whether he'll be able to re-enter the race or not. It looks like most likely they will try to restart the car, but this definitely drops him off the pace and out of contention. Let's go back topside.
Also, Jack, just up pit road from you, Dick Simon has pulled onto the grass just off of pit road, and he is completely stopped. I don't know what his situation is.
Al, this is a particularly bitter disappointment for Kevin Kogan. There's Dick Simon, who's pulled off. Just to mention that Kogan, in the first race held here back in 1982, Kevin Kogan led the first half of that race, broke down. He's always felt he was sort of owed a win here. Early yesterday, he was the fastest driver on the track for a while. He had his hopes up. He has not had a good season so far. Now he's out of it.
It's difficult for Kevin because he is most well remembered for 2 great disappointments. One an accident and one a great pass by Bobby Rahal to win or lose the Indianapolis 500, depending on who you're telling the story about. There is the leader, Roberto Guerrero, still in the Cleveland Grand Prix, as the first 5 cars have pulled away from the field.
And we hear that Dick Simon retired with a gearbox problem. We're going to hear a lot of that today.
There is Mario Andretti still in second place. Behind him is Bobby Rahal, then Michael Andretti, and then Emerson Fittipaldi, the 2-time Formula One World Driving Champion.
And this battle has really closed up. No longer is it a 2-car battle for second and third. It is now a 4-car battle for second, third, fourth, and fifth. Good stuff.
So you've got a batch of hot drivers right there. I mean, really guys that are good right now.
Well, you talk about hot, you also talk about consistency. Mario Andretti, Roberto Guerrero, and Bobby Rahal have led 82% of all the laps that have been run this year in kart racing. That is now over 900 laps. They've been in front, those 3 drivers, 82% of the time.
And you think of the championship, Rahal leading with 74 points, Michael Andretti second with 70, Mario Andretti third with 59. So we're looking at the hot runners right there.
Back with Bobby Rahal now, still live, dueling with Mario Andretti right in front of him.
Well, you can definitely tell who has what groove by watching this in-cam that we have here at ABC. That's a beautiful, beautiful shot. Bobby Rahal doesn't spend much time shifting. You see his hand go down, come right back up. Another thing for the fans to pay note and pay attention to is sometimes when he's in the corner, if the corner goes to the right, you see the steering wheel go to the left. That means that he's sliding just a little bit, Al.
All right, let's try to pick up a sense of how Bobby Rahal is shifting the car. We were able to see his hand reaching down there for the shifter. He's into turn 3 now. That's second gear. That's about 40 miles an hour. It's very bumpy here as they come over the main runway. Now he's accelerating hard. He's in third. He's in fourth. He has 1 gear to go. Fifth, you see him snatch it there. Now he's about 180 miles an hour. Braking now for turn number 5 down into third gear. Not really closing up behind Mario. Bobby makes the point that sometimes you see him steer into the slide in the turn, especially over the bumps. Third gear here. Now, third gear, or was that briefly second gear? Anyway, there's a long section here that he takes. Yes, there's third gear. In third, really tough turn. 3 of them in a row. Big G-forces, long right-hand turns. Bobby Rahal coming out now onto the next to last straightaway. Upshift into fourth gear, 130 miles an hour. Jeff Brabham, I think it is, smoking there. That is a possible engine problem. Bobby, that could be your dark horse pick out of the action.
Could be a transmission, too. The smoke's coming back there. Could be a transmission, could be an engine. They don't normally have engine problems with that Honda, but that very well could be a transmission problem right there. But Jeff is definitely out of the race. That's that.
Also, remember on a road circuit like this, when a car goes out and or an engine is lost, they do not put a yellow flag out for the entire track, only for a specific turn or a section. Jeff Brabham, the potential dark horse, as Bobby Unser may have seen it, is out of this race, but he joins many in a race that has had a very high attrition rate. There's a look at the leaderboard. Guerrero, Andretti, Rahal, another Andretti, Fittipaldi, and Danny Sullivan moving up. They're wrapping up the July 4th celebration in Cleveland with one big celebration of speed. Roberto Guerrero is enjoying this party just fine, thank you, leading the Cleveland Grand Prix. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
Well, Jeff Brabham is out of the race. He has not gotten back to the pits, but this is his team owner, Rick Gallus. Rick, what was the problem?
Well, we don't really know. There was a big puff of smoke. Looked, maybe it might have been a piston, but I couldn't. Jeff just said that something in the engine went, and transmission seemed to be okay. So until we get it back, we won't really know.
And the Honda engine seemed to have been so reliable all year long. You really had good expectations from it today.
Yeah, it did real well. Our final qualifying session, we actually ran quicker in our last practice session, and we're getting real good fuel mileage, and we expected to be a real contender in the race, so it's really too bad.
Well, Rick can't fold his cards and go home yet because he still has another car out on the racetrack. Now he'll have to watch for the fortunes of his rookie driver, Jeff McPherson. Back up to you guys in the tower.
Okay, Jack, of course, both of those drivers using Honda engines, the only two drivers in the field to run with the Japanese power plant. Average speed just over 130 miles an hour. We are watching the drivers negotiate the 20th lap of the 80 they must complete. You're looking at the battle for second and third, and this has been going on since the very beginning of the race. Mario Andretti in second, Bobby Rahal right behind in third.
That gap is closer than it's been as we look now from the car once again of Bobby Rahal. Rahal accelerating hard here, and you see some of the bumps really at every point in the track where the runways change from runways to taxiways. You'll find some bumps, and look at how, if you look to the extreme left here, the track really ripples up and down. That's why they pull way away, and I think Mario was blocking Bobby briefly there, no question about it. You see him seesawing back and forth because that is a point on the track coming into turn 11 there, Bobby, where Bobby Rahal has had a chance at Mario in the last couple of laps.
Sam, he wasn't blocking him. That's the part I was trying to show you just a little bit ago where Mario's trying to get offline so Rahal can't run in his slipstream. Can't get a little help from the air. That's what he's trying to do there, just keep him from making a pass.
Well, but I don't know, because I think weren't they just coming into the braking zone there at that point?
No, they were just about 3/4 down the straightaway.
Just short of it?
We have two very long straightaways at this track, and so whereas most road courses you can't do a lot of slipstreaming, here you can do it two different places.
All right, now remember the respective luck, Al, of these two men at the track. Mario Andretti, who has often led this race and almost won it on 3 separate occasions, but has the same kind of cloud hanging over his head here at Cleveland that that he does at Indianapolis. Bobby Rahal, who won this race, as you pointed out, back in 1982, that was only his 4th IndyCar race when he won this race. So Bobby Rahal seems to have the luck riding with him here. Of course, he's an Ohio resident. In fact, the car, I think, says something like the spirit of Columbus, Ohio on it. So he is here among friends, obviously hoping to do well. Mario is here in a place of bad vibration.
It's interesting to note, and at times you may see debris build up on the lens of the camera, then it slides away. There's a plastic film over the lens of these cameras that is advanced to remove the debris. And you saw that battle there, that real tug of war with the steering wheel by Bobby Rahal. So far, this race has been a model of consistency. The top 5 positions were set right after the green flag waved, and they have not changed since. Once again, Kevin Kogan is in the pits. That spark plug problem seems to be continuing for him, as Emerson Fittipaldi now has just created the first change since the start of the race in passing Michael Andretti. There again is the leader, Roberto Guerrero, and the last time we clocked it, he had a lead of about 5 seconds over Mario Andretti. If you had planned to fly into the Burke Lakefront Airport today, tell the pilot to turn around. The place is closed. We are focusing in on the battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th position in the Cleveland Grand Prix. It is Mario Andretti there in car number 5. He is being trailed by Bobby Rahal, who is being followed by Emerson Fittipaldi.
Well, that's one fine race. I've been watching that while we were on commercial, Al, and Emerson Fittipaldi is really coming up strong. He went right by Michael Andretti. Now he's got the 2nd and 3rd place waking up. He's saying, hey, boys, you're either going to have to pick the pace up or I'm going to have to pass you. I think that's what he's going to do pretty quick.
These three men are driving a very smart race. Now, all right, what does a smart race mean exactly? You can tell that neither of them is making any desperate moves in traffic. If they lose a car length or two to pass a back marker safely, they'll do that. More to the point, they're not running so close to each other. Oh, look at that superb shot. That's as they're turning away from Lake Erie at speeds of, 120 miles an hour. You can see the heat coming up from the runways, although it is a little bit cooler right now than it was just an hour ago. Not as much heat reflecting up off the runways because it has become increasingly cloudy.
We have been told and listening, and there's a car smoking. Arie Luyendyk, the Dutchman, a lot of smoke pouring out of the back of his car. He pulls onto the grass.
That's coming out of the turbocharger. At least from here it looks like it is. That means he's got an engine that's blown out.
Luyendyk has had such a good... oh, here we go. Here goes Bobby Rahal, the first of the leaders into the pits, Al. You see the pit lane there. Jack Arute is down waiting for him, Jack.
And Bobby Rahal, as you can see, comes to a complete stop. The air jack goes in. The tires come off the car. Looks like it's going to be a minimum of 3, now 4 tires, all 4 around. Nothing major of concern here on this pit stop. They're adding the fuel, a very good, efficient stop. The fuel and the tires are completed. He puts it into gear. A little bit of problem there, a hesitation, but he's off and away.
Most drivers had said they wouldn't pit until the 28th and between the 28th and 32nd lap. So Bobby Rahal goes a little earlier as he comes down the pits, and that's a spectacular shot between those two walls.
Did you see him just tearing off? They have several very thin visors that overlay the main visor, and as he exited the pits, Bobby Rahal tore off. There we go. That is still Luyendyk's car from another angle. He is completely safe, though, Alan, out of the car. There's Guerrero, the leader. You can just make him out in day glow there behind that debris fence.
Now, I'd like to know from the two of you, there are differing strategies in the back of the field.
He's coming into the pits.
Back to Jack Arute.
This pit stop is exactly according to plan. Mo Nunn, the crew chief, told Roberto Guerrero before the start of the race, lap 26, we're coming in. That's what they've done. They, too, are exchanging 4 tires all the way around. Guerrero keeping the revs up on the engine. They're adding the fuel. The last center lugs are going on the rear tires, waiting for the stop to be completed. It is, and he's away. Screaming rubber as he goes back out.
Roberto Guerrero back onto the track as he came into the pits. Mario Andretti came in. So did Emerson Fittipaldi. Saw how close they came, and here they come. 1, 2, 3. It is Roberto Guerrero there. Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti exiting pit road.
Now this shows the game plans now of most of the teams, and most of them seem to have somewhat the same concept. Everybody's probably wondering, why are they changing tires on the first stop? Did they wear them out? Really, they didn't. The reason they're doing this yet is that if it's really close at the end of the race, they won't have to change tires again.
The city of Cleveland off in the background. The 27th lap right now with all the pit stops that have been taken. Danny Sullivan is the leader of the Cleveland Grand Prix. "28 laps complete in the Cleveland Grand Prix. Right now, the leader is a man born in Colombia. Behind him, a man born in Brazil. And behind him, a man born in Italy. It is Roberto Guerrero, Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti. What I would like to know, we started to get into it before, is the differing strategy that you would have in trying to weave your way through traffic and when you have a 5-second lead like Roberto Guerrero did before.
Well, Al, in a race like this, leading the race is not nearly as important, except to get a lot of press, than it is in a lot of tracks because of the transmission, the high transmission failures that we have here. For example, right here, we're watching Roberto and Fittipaldi. Now, neither one of them are pushing really hard. Roberto's been operating with about a 5 to 5.5 second lead. They all changed tires. Remember, the first guy in kind of set the precedent. If he changes tires, makes everybody else kind of go along with the same concept, unless the guy's really off base. And they're not. Like Roberto right now is getting pressed for the first time out of the whole race so far. But remember, here they normally don't have yellow flag close-ups like they do in oval track, so the guys can pit when they want to, and the first guy in sets the precedent for the other guys.
Emerson Fittipaldi, 40 years old, former world champion. He won his first world championship. He has won 2 when he was just 24 years old. That's how long he's been on top of this sport. But he hasn't had much luck, Al, this year. As you see now, the battle for 3rd and 4th, Mario Andretti just ahead, and Bobby Rahal on the left of the screen in 4th place. Just to finish up on Emerson Fittipaldi, he had a 3rd place at the Meadowlands race last week. So finally, he is coming into his form at this point in the season. Good battle here.
The sun breaking through the clouds once again. That heats things up inside the cars as if there isn't enough heat already today. But still, there are some dark clouds off in the distance behind the skyline of the city of Cleveland. Still, it is Roberto Guerrero in front, Emerson Fittipaldi right behind him. But right now, you are looking at the battle for third and fourth position. Mario Andretti, Bobby Rahal.
But you know what, too? The heat coming out, I mean, the sun coming out and heating up the track can often change the handling of the cars. More so on an oval than on a road course, but it can be felt on a road course.
Mario always seems to notice that, Stan, because Mario's probably one of the better test drivers that we've had in the Indy cars. And when the sun comes out, when the sun goes back behind the clouds, he always notices the difference on his tires.
Down to Jack Arute.
Well, Al, to add what Bobby Unser had said, this first set of pit stops was the first card played in the poker game in the pits. Now, Roberto Guerrero changed these tires, and there's no unusual wear on these tires, but what that allows him to do now is to be able, if need be, make a timed final pit stop. There should be only 2 stops in this race. The tire wear is good. They're not concerned. And if they have to, they can come in for fuel only at the end of the race and still have plenty of tires to finish the race, hopefully in first. Let's go back up to you.
All right, Jack, and you can see those little pebbles embedded in the tire. By the time this race is over, most of these cars will look as though they've been sandblasted. The paint will be completely gone from the very tip of the car and along the wing from all the little pebbles that are thrown up from these tires.
Now, let me make a point that is pretty obvious. At this stage, Bobby Rahal, running on the left of your screen, has decided he has got to get by Mario Andretti if he can. I think, Bobby, don't you? At this stage, Bobby Rahal feels he cannot afford to let Emerson Fittipaldi and Roberto Guerrero stretch any further ahead. In the early phase of the race, before the pit stops, he was content to stay behind Mario. I think we're going to see him push him a little harder right now.
Well, the first 2 cars are running approximately 7 to 7.5 seconds ahead of these 2 cars, 3rd and 4th place. And there's good racing. The first 2 cars are racing nose to tail. These 2 guys, Mario and Rahal, are racing nose to tail. But Bobby has to get Mario going occasionally. Mario doesn't want to abuse the car any more than he has to. Look at that hard bump right there. Doesn't abuse the car any harder than he has to, but by the same token, like you said, Bobby Rahal doesn't want to get too far behind, so he's waking Mario up.
Well, you know, one point you made before the race began, Bobby, is the different manufacturers of the cars. Now, Mario Andretti is driving a Lola. Bobby Rahal, right behind him, is also driving a Lola. So they are in the same kind of car, and they both, as a result, have the same gearbox. And it is known that the Lola gearboxes are delicate compared to the March gearboxes. They have a very small ring gear in them, and these drivers, perhaps more than the March drivers who are occupying first and second in the race at this point, may want to be extremely delicate with what they do. We hear, unfortunately, the reason we're not having a look at this battle from over the shoulder of Bobby Rahal, which we enjoyed, I thought, immensely earlier, is we're having what we hope is a temporary technical problem with that race team.
Of the 25 cars that started, only 8 are on the lead lap. A moment ago, you saw Mario and Bobby pass another car that was not on their lap, and nicely he slid out of the way, and they roared right on by him. We are live at the Burke Lakefront Airport, a twisting track of 12 turns that actually resembles on paper the body of a race car itself. We asked Mario Andretti to tell us about the track.
I think Cleveland is sort of it's an animal of its own. I can't relate it to any other road course, or certainly an oval. I think it's strictly a road course, very featureless, and no points of reference. And that's the other thing. It's a place where you really have to pay attention to where you are, and when you're going to back off. Your line going into certain corners is 4 car widths wide. You have a choice of 4 different lines, which conceivably could be just as good. And so to me, it's a very confusing place. And I didn't enjoy it here at the beginning because I never felt that I had anything down. I just felt, gosh, I think I'm leaving so much here to be explored yet. Now, after a few years, I just feel, okay, I think I must have something down, but it's one of those places where you have so much choice of line that you never experience anywhere else.
Just moments ago, Mario Andretti completed his 6,700th lap in an Indy car, more than anyone in the history of IndyCar racing.
You see the 2 leaders, Roberto Guerrero on the right, Emerson Fittipaldi on the left as they accelerate into the most open part of the track. This is the part that Mario was really talking about when he said you could take 4 or 5 lines into the turn. It's that turn 5 out there as they come away from Lake Erie and now twist through a little bit narrower part of the track. Roberto Guerrero still in control, now with Emerson Fittipaldi, twice the world champion, sitting right behind him. So both these men with a European background in racing. Roberto Guerrero raced for the Ensign Formula One team earlier 2 or 3 years ago before he began his Indy career.
34 laps of 80 complete. Roberto Guerrero still leading the Cleveland Grand Prix. Emerson Fittipaldi right behind him. Then Mario Andretti, Bobby Rahal. We've been watching a lot of that battle. Michael Andretti, he's been right in the middle of things since the start. And Danny Sullivan. Then Al Unser Jr., Rick Mears, Jeff McPherson. So far running well for him. But remember, only the first 8 cars are on the lead lap. Then Tom Sneva, Ludwig Heimrath Jr., the Canadian-born rookie, and Johnny Rutherford, the 26-year veteran of IndyCar racing. So the Cleveland Grand Prix is shaping up with a tight battle in front now. Roberto Guerrero and Emerson Fittipaldi, 1 and 2. We'll pause now for these messages and a word from your local stations. Seven cars have fallen victim in the Cleveland Grand Prix, none of them due to a crash. We have had 2 leaders, one Roberto Guerrero, the other Danny Sullivan, while Roberto Guerrero was in the pits. And the average speed has dropped down to 128 miles per hour plus. Moments ago, Mario Andretti was passed by Bobby Rahal, and here is what it looked like.
This was headed into that wide open turn 5 as they turn away from the lake, and Mario Andretti, of course, on the outside. Bobby Rahal sneaking up on the inside of the there. You see him outbraking Mario Andretti. It's a clean pass. Mario let him by. As we'd said before, Bobby Rahal had been pressing him for some time, and finally the moment just came right there.
Stam, it looks like Mario is just slowing down just a tidbit. He's probably not getting the mileage they want, or maybe he feels he's abusing the tires a little too hard, but he was just holding Bobby up. Bobby just turns the boost up a little bit, passed him in the famous back straightaway into turn 5. Quite an easy pass, really.
Yeah, in fact, this track is probably lends itself to easier, safer passing than any other track in the business. There is a possibility that that back injury that I mentioned that Mario has been suffering from and basically trying to hide from his fellow racers because he doesn't want anybody to realize that at 47 years old he might not be as tough as he'd like to be. That could be bothering him here. I doubt it this early in the game, but he does have a back injury dating from the crash a week after Indianapolis that he had when the rear wing support broke at Milwaukee. You can imagine what happens when the rear wing snaps off one of these cars when you're in a turn. You are suddenly thrown straight out of control. Mario went right into the wall with what he described as the biggest hit he'd ever taken. Now we have Jack Arute in the pits with a report about Mario. Jack?
Well, the report from Tyler Alexander, the crew chief on Mario Andretti's car, is that the car is not really handling the way they would like to. They've picked a setup and it really hasn't come to them as much as they would hope. So it's really not a question of him slowing down as much as everybody else is doing a little bit better. And rather than hold everybody up, he's let Bobby Rahal get by in a clean move, and it could be just a Sunday afternoon drive, but maybe not a run for victory. Back up to you.
Kart officials have reported that car number 55, Jose Garza, who started in the 8th row, has been penalized 2 laps for overrunning his pit. So obviously he's having some problems with his brakes. Now, we have told you, of course, that Emerson Fittipaldi is in 2nd place behind Roberto Guerrero. He comes from the world of Formula One, a world in which he was champion twice. Now he says he's enjoying racing again. He told us about it.
Well, my last 3 or 4 years in Formula One, I was just quite depressed. I was not motivated to go racing because of many different reasons. And my 3rd full season in IndyCar race, I'm full motivated, like if I'd be 18 years old. I'm really enthusiastic, I'm really motivated, I'm giving myself 100%. Looking at all the details that I never was able to look for the last 2 or 3 years. Now I'm going deep into my sport and really enjoying.
Earlier today, the Grand Prix of France was run. We have, of course, been following the Grand Prix story during the year. We covered the Grand Prix of Monaco. And it has been a fascinating battle between essentially two teams. The Williams team, which today emerged victorious with Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet. Those are both Williams team drivers, defeating the team of tag team McLaren. Alain Prost, the current world champion, drives for McLaren. You see him in third spot there. And Ayrton Senna, who had won the last two races, the races at Monaco and Detroit, came in fourth. But it was a major victory for the Honda engine cars. Honda making a big push in Formula One, spending untold amounts of money. You see that Senna with the Honda engine has a narrow lead over Prost with a tag Porsche engine. And by the way, a Porsche is coming to IndyCar racing later this fall with Bobby's brother Al Unser driving it. So we're going to have the presence of Porsche here, as all forms of racing seem to be becoming more internationalized and certainly a great deal more expensive.
We've passed the halfway mark in the Cleveland Grand Prix, and still the bright orange car of Roberto Guerrero is in front. Emerson Fittipaldi right behind him.
Al, something to kind of take note on right now is young Michael Andretti, normally very much a hot dog, has slowly been slipping back. Michael is back to 7th. Al Jr. has passed him. Danny Sullivan's passed him. Al is 6th. Danny Sullivan is 5th. So we still have a pretty good race coming back in that part of the track.
There is Michael Andretti.
He had his 4th career win earlier in the year at Milwaukee, the same race in which his dad, Mario, was injured. And, of course, Michael had to pass the wrecked car of his dad and watch his dad be taken out and put on a stretcher. He said it was the toughest thing that had happened to him in his career.
Let's check in and see how many cars are actually out of this race and who are the drivers in those cars that are out. First of all, Dale Coyne started last, didn't last long. And we got a pass. Emerson Fittipaldi has taken the lead from Roberto Guerrero. Only the 3rd leader that this race has known. It comes in the 43rd lap. Emerson Fittipaldi leads the Cleveland Grand Prix.
That's the same place, Al, that earlier Bobby Rahal squeezed by Mario Andretti. So that's that big sweeping turn. It's called turn number 5. And as Bobby said at the outset, that's all. We've had a spin. One of the Dick Simon cars here. Ludwig Heimrath Jr., the fastest qualifying rookie at Indianapolis, has spun here.
That's something we wouldn't have expected. He's really a bright young man coming up, Sam. I just wonder if Ludwig had a little bit of a problem, because it's not like that boy to be spinning out.
No, it certainly isn't. He's married to a delightful girl named Kathy Rude, incidentally, who suffered one of the worst injuries a driver ever has. She used to be a racer, no longer. Let's have another look at that pass for the lead.
Now, an interesting thing to see here, after we see the pass, here comes Emerson right by. He slipstreamed him all the way and whipped off to the right, got a little pull from one of the other cars in the slipstream department, goes right by Roberto. Probably turned up a little boost at the same time. But what's interesting now, or what's going to be interesting to see is, will Roberto chase Emo, use up the fuel, abuse his car, or let's see if he's going to be a smart race driver, just keep his pace going like he's been doing all day.
That move certainly showed a lot of experience, didn't it? Let's go down to Jack Arute.
Well, listen, here's what's happening down on pit road. Kind of appropriate when you're at an airport. They've been scurrying back and forth to the hangars. Not to get more of these kind of tires, but more of these kind of tires. These are rain tires, and if it starts to rain here, this will what most likely will go on the cars. The reports are that the rain is within 15 minutes of the area, a band of thunderstorms some 18 miles wide. The top teams have already taken these out. They're standing by. We could have an interesting finish to this race in the rain.
All right, Jack's obviously been up there measuring the clouds as we continue now in lap 45.
I got to say, from up here in the booth, though, it looks better than that. Is that your assessment as well?
Yeah, I think it looks a little better than that, but you never know.
As we watch Emo go, incidentally, Al and Sam, he looks like he's using his race car pretty hard. Now, Emo is one darn good racing driver on road circuits, one of the best that I've ever seen. I've run with this guy lots of times. He's a super good race driver. He's got a very good car. They had an awful lot of problems early in the season, especially in Indianapolis, getting these cars going. They're Pat Patrick's cars. But they are going good the last couple of races. And Emo is on a hot streak, and he's probably got an awful lot of frustration. Now, we're going to have to see. Is he going to abuse his car and break his transmission? I certainly hope that Demo does it.
Bobby, remember that talk at Indianapolis about how Emerson was spooked about the place, was scared of it, and then he retired so early in the race? That was the low point, the nadir in the season. Now things are coming up, up, up. Emerson has not led so far this year. Before this, I believe, and so we are seeing him maybe push the car, as you mentioned, harder than he ordinarily would.
We see one of the main things at Cleveland is that Emerson, without a tremendous amount of experience on this track, maybe doesn't know how much to abuse the car. This track needs to be just a tick smoother so the cars will last, because you'd never see better racing than what we see right here at Cleveland.
Now you're in the car of Tom Sneva, who is not on the lead lap. He is 2 laps behind the leaders, but it gives you a very good idea of what's happening between Roberto Guerrero, who is in second place, and Emerson Fittipaldi, who is now 2 or maybe 3 cars in front of Sneva. There's a lot of lap traffic that's involved in the front. I should also tell you that a couple of cars back, Danny Sullivan seems prepared to pass. He has just passed Mario Andretti to move Mario back now into 5th spot. Danny Sullivan claims 4th. Bobby Rahal still in 3rd.
I did. Well, let's have another look at that pass as Sullivan comes up and blows by Mario Andretti. Mario has been slipping slowly down through the field. Again, this is the turn 5, the most open part on the track. Sullivan, there's absolutely no contest. And this time, of course, unlike what happened at Indianapolis 3 years ago, he did not pass Mario Andretti and spin.
That's just an obvious deal there on that pass, that he just turned up the boost and went right by. What they're doing, everybody's a little bit short of fuel here. Most of the cars are getting, if they're doing good, get 1.7 miles per gallon if they're running hard, Sam and Al. What happens is they have to turn the boost back to maybe 45 inches of manifold pressure. So when they want to do a pass like down that back straightaway, they just crank the boost up, surprise the guy, and go right by.
Emerson Fittipaldi still in the lead, and there's a look at his son. The Fittipaldi family, once again in the United States, having come here to concentrate on Indy cars from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Roberto Guerrero in 2nd, Bobby Rahal in 3rd, Danny Sullivan, the defending champion, in 4th, Mario Andretti and Al Unser Jr. You're looking at 40-year-old Emerson Fittipaldi. He is the leader of the Cleveland Grand Prix. His best finish in this event was in 1985. That was 8th, only one of 3 starts that he has had in this event. Right now, in the 50th lap of 80 that would complete this race, he is the leader. We look ahead to Monday night on ABC Sports. The Minnesota Twins and Kirby Puckett take to the Bronx. They'll battle the front-running New York Yankees, or you may see the Los Angeles Dodgers with Pedro Guerrero meeting the St. Louis Cardinals. No, he's not there anymore. Then following Nightline, ABC Sports presents Monday Sports Night. I'll be there along with Billie Jean King. Sam Posey will be talking to Paul Newman about auto racing, and also we will have Greg LeMond, the first American to win the Tour de France. You remember earlier this year his brother accidentally shot him. He is ready to make a comeback.
As we see Emerson Fittipaldi still in control, and Bobby's been making the point that he seems to be pushing awful hard. I just want to make a correct, you'll have a look at how enormous his lead over Roberto Guerrero is. There's Emerson Fittipaldi coming through turn number 9 and now 10. And where is Roberto Guerrero? We're waiting this long, over 7, 8, 9 seconds for Roberto Guerrero, about 11 seconds back with Bobby Rahal right behind him. I was wrong. Emerson has led earlier in this season at Portland, which is 2 races ago. He led 45 of the 46 laps. Regrettably, I didn't see that. I would love to have watched him. I'm a great fan of Emerson Fittipaldi.
Sam, we've just about got another pass in the brew right now. We have Bobby Rahal moving up on Roberto Guerrero. Now, I'm not trying to say this is something bad, but look at there. There's an attempted pass right there, and I look for him to make a pass right down this next straightaway. I believe right now that Roberto's slowing down. He's about 9 seconds behind, as you just said, and I don't know whether he's having a problem. Maybe we could get Jack Arute down, but Rahal is definitely going to pass him in just a bit.
Well, the lead shrinks, then it grows, then it shrinks and grows again. Rahal right behind Roberto Guerrero. This is the battle for 2nd and 3rd. Emerson Fittipaldi still in the lead. Danny Sullivan, remember, has claimed 4th, but he is not about to get involved in this battle between 2nd and 3rd place Guerrero and Rahal just yet. Let's check in with Jack Arute. Jack, any answers?
Well, Bobby, the answer, I think, still has a question mark. I should agree with you, but in talking to Vince Granatelli and to Mo Nunn, they both said there really is no major problem. It's just that they're not running as fast as they did at the start of the race. I quizzed them as to what they would do at the last pit stop, and they said that what they most likely will do is make an adjustment, but it might not be through chassis, but it may be through the boost. Let's go back up to you.
Well, thank you, Jack. I think what that kind of tells us all is that Roberto and the team together, and there comes the master, Bobby Rahal, and he did pass Roberto Guerrero. But don't worry about it. I was just going to mention, that probably shows that Roberto Guerrero and the team are really thinking like businessmen, like good racers, instead of the flash in the pants. See how fast we can go, drop out every race. They really want to win this one.
That was the first serious pass, Bobby, at any point other than that wide open point. They were coming into turn 3 there. It was a classic outbraking maneuver by Bobby Rahal.
The slower car there, Rick Muskiewicz, allowing Rahal and Guerrero to slide easily by. Remember how hot Bobby Rahal is behind the wheel. We documented at the beginning of our telecast this afternoon that he has won 4 straight races, including the event in Portland and last week at the Meadowlands. So Bobby Rahal now looks to make it 3 straight IndyCar races for himself.
Now, historically, Rahal comes on at the latter part of the races. We're over halfway now. Rahal is moving up. He's passing cars, slowly getting ahead. Probably one of the smarter race drivers and the best in taking care. And here we're going to have a slow motion. Let's watch. Now, here comes Bobby Rahal working on Roberto, trying to lure him over that side. Switches around. Passes him on the inside, slowly by. Blocks him where he can't come back in. Nice, good, clean pass.
If a boxer was watching that, he'd know how to describe it, right? That was a feint to the left and a pass on the right.
That's a rare place to pass.
It is, yeah.
I said earlier, turn 2 is hard on the cars, on the transmissions, but there's not too many passes going there except to the left cars.
And Bobby, you might be happy to learn that your nephew Al Unser Jr. has passed Mario Andretti to claim 4th place now. So the top 4 are Fittipaldi, Rahal, Guerrero, and Al Unser Jr.
I was talking to little Al last night after the practices. Here comes Emo into the pits now. This is going to start telling us what's going to happen. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
Jim McGee and his crew are waiting for the appearance of Emerson Fittipaldi in their pit. They lean out, giving him the signal. The board is down. He's coming in very nicely. Comes to a complete stop. They run around to add the tires. The fuel line goes in. The car is up off the ground. Emerson Fittipaldi looking over to check what the crew says. Jim McGee checking things out. They're changing the rear tire. And now they're adding the fuel. They drop it down, and he's off and away. A good quick stop. What about it, Jim McGee? Is it the way you wanted it to go?
Excellent stop. Very good.
Well, that's the story from this end of the pits, but still, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th have to pit.
Emerson Fittipaldi coming in lap number 54, as now Rahal coming in.
Coming out. He's already made his stop. He's now resuming right behind Michael Andretti, who you see there in the blue and yellow car. But that's a measure of how far ahead Bobby Rahal is of Michael Andretti, because Michael Andretti has yet to pit. There's Roberto Guerrero now leading again, thanks to the pit stop of Emerson Fittipaldi.
Now, a good thing to take note of right now this early in the race. We only have 53 laps that have been run. It would appear that we're going to absolutely, beyond any doubt, make a 3 pit stop race out of it. So the strategies are not done yet.
Oh ho! You see another stop. It was planned generally by most teams for 2 stops. But you're so right, Bobby. The window of opportunity, so to speak, they've stopped. Oh, here's Guerrero having trouble. Do you see anything wrong with, did he just coast in?
No, that was just a normal pit stop, Sam. He's coming in. He's just going to take on rear tire. Remember what we said earlier. What the first guy does, the second guy, the third guy, and so on do. I think it's going to hold true because we have another one. Let's get down to Jack Arute. Jack?
Roberto Guerrero is done with his pit stop. They, too, changed the rear tire. They have completed their work. Vince Granatelli calling the shots. What about it, Vince? Is that the kind of stop you wanted? Will we have to make 3 stops?
No, I'm really okay with this. With our last stop, and that's just exactly what we wanted. We're real happy with the stop.
Now, the question is, do you turn the boost back up now and go for it?
I think that we're just going to bide some time here and see how we're doing and make that decision towards the end of the race.
Well, that's the story from your pole winner, Roberto Guerrero. He could still be your race winner as well.
An impressive performance by you, Jack. You went from one end of pit road for the report on Fittipaldi all the way to the other end for the report on Guerrero. So maybe that's why you sound a little out of breath. In the meantime, it is Guerrero leading in lap 55. Remember, it takes 80 laps on a track that's 2.48 miles.
You know, the reason we thought, looking up suddenly, that Guerrero was in trouble, you made the point that Jack Arute had to run all the way down the pit. Guerrero's pit is on the east end of the pits, and it's the first one or the second one down there. So he came in very slowly because he was stopping early. You see Rick Mears just on the right of the screen there for a moment in his yellow car. There's Mario Andretti into the pits. The key now is, can Andretti do anything with a new set of tires that might make his car handle any better? Obviously, they had been in trouble during the middle phase of the race. Bobby, do you notice anything that they're doing of consequence? No, I don't think so.
No, they're not, Sam. What they're doing is all the cars so far changing just the rear tires. Mario, for sure, will only have to do one more pit stop. Obviously, from what Ben said, they will only, or excuse me, Mario's done his last pit stop. Roberto Guerrero will only have to do, according to Vince Granatelli, the one that he just did. It would seem to me like Emo could possibly have to do another one, or he's going to be awfully close on fuel.
Well, if, Bobby, what you say is true, it comes to pass. We have some very dramatic moments to come yet in the Cleveland Grand Prix with 25 laps to go. Fittipaldi in front. There were only 2 Honda engines running in the Cleveland Grand Prix. Earlier we showed you Jeff Brabham's engine go up in smoke. Now we can show you Jeff McPherson's engine go up in smoke. So both of the Japanese entries are out.
Well, that's got to bother Rick Gallis a lot, Al. They haven't really had any Honda engine problems for an awful long time, all this year. Now all of a sudden both of them. So I suppose what's happening is that the weakness in, and both of them are built just alike, and both of them have the same problem. Emo still leading the race. Bobby Rahal second, Roberto Guerrero third, Al Unser Jr. is up to fourth now. That's something to kind of notice. Danny Sullivan fifth, and Mario Andretti.
Bobby, don't you think, I mean, we've been talking about, here is Emerson Fittipaldi leading, and yet of all the lead cars, his seems to be absorbing the most punishment. Bouncing over those bumps. He is forcing that car hard. He stopped the earliest of the leaders for his second stop, and thus you've raised the question of whether he can make it to the end without another pit stop. We'll be trying to get a report from that, of course, by Jack Arute. But it seems as if, although he is leading, he is exacting a tremendous toll from that car.
Well, Emo really can't do much about it, Sam. The car is...
Whoa, Garza has spotted Jose Lee Garza. Bobby, you know a thing or two about him. You used to be his team manager.
Well, Jose Lee's been doing a pretty good job. He's been pretty fast lately, but he's had a lot of bad luck. And just like in Indianapolis, though, he made the mistake. And he's been doing that a little bit lately, and the day is kind of sad. Jose Lee really felt like racing today and told me that he thought he was going to have a good day.
Is it a visual pun, or is he actually going backwards in his career?
Well, I don't think he's going backwards. I just think he's in a low point and just kind of not doing good. Now, there's little Al. He's been slowly coming up. His car has been getting good mileage. I talked to him like I told you about that last night, and now this last bit of the race, the last third of the race, I think he's going to be turning his boost up and coming on a little stronger.
Al Unser Jr. with his sights set on Roberto Guerrero, who is in third position, and right behind Al Unser Jr., Danny Sullivan. Mario Andretti has dropped to sixth, and right behind him, his son is Michael Andretti.
You know, Al, last year, Al Unser Jr. won a race of attrition. You see from inside his cockpit here, the last race of the year last year was at Miami, and as the cars began to drop out, including on the very last lap, Roberto Guerrero's with fuel trouble, it was this man, Al Unser Jr., who came on, and he had a race cam in his car that day, too, and I can remember him coming on and passing the leaders right at the last minute. He has an enviable reliability record this year in that Doug Shearson car. He's been second, he's been fourth, he's been fifth. So he's a very consistent driver, Bobby. I know you're...
Well, one thing that the people are going to wonder is, I just wanted to mention that camera, the film won't advance, or the little plastic lens on the camera won't advance, but it gives people an idea of how much dirt, how much debris. Look at all that. It's on the racetrack. Now that gets on the driver's goggles too.
That's what I mentioned earlier when we saw Rahal leave the pits after his first stop. He was pulling off these thin strips of protection that protect his main visor.
Bobby, when you were watching Al grow up and you got together for the holidays, when was the first time you saw him do something, grab a toy, play with a toy that said to you he's going to be a driver?
Gosh, when he was about 7 years old, he was sneaking out in his dad's wrecking yard, into the old wrecking yard his father had, and he was getting cars, wiring them up, and running them around back with his daddy, not knowing about it. Motorcycles. We used to steady him on a motorcycle because he couldn't touch the ground, push him off with the engine running, and he wouldn't stop until he run out of gas, and he'd just jump off and let the motorcycle fall. We knew then he was going to be a pretty good race driver.
Al Unser Jr. in 4th place. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Al, let me update you on 2 stories. One, the decline of Mario Andretti going back to 6th, 7th, 8th position. It seems like they think they have a problem with the pop-off valve. They don't feel they're getting the full amount of allowable boost. That's hurt their chances, and they're falling back dramatically. Now, let's talk about your leader. Behind me is his brain trust, that of Emerson Fittipaldi, Pat Patricks, etc. As Little Al Jr. moves into 3rd place, let me tell you what the situation is here. According to Pat Patrick and Jim McGee, this man here, they are not going to make another stop. They say they can go the distance, and they also say they can go at full boost. We'll just have to wait and see. Back up to you.
Realism or foolishness? We will see before the race is over. Let's go back again. Al Unser Jr. had been trailing Roberto Guerrero for quite some time, and then just moments ago, as Jack was talking, he made his move.
In traffic. Look at how many cars were ahead of Roberto, and it was only, you see, you can trust Roberto Guerrero because Al came inside of him so suddenly there, and you would really want to make sure that you were making a pass like that on a guy whose reflexes and peripheral vision and generosity of spirit, frankly, was as good as Roberto Guerrero.
What I never get used to is that they have many places on the track where there's a lot of room, yet it seems that all the drivers pick the absolute tightest spot to make their move and pass.
I think that was kind of a surprise one. It was certainly the most difficult pass we've seen today out of all of them. So I think it just caught Roberto a little bit by surprise, and little Al had that advantage.
All right, Emerson Fittipaldi, but Al, there's a little bit of a, it's hard to answer that question unless you could get out there in the cars themselves, but sometimes it's in the least likely places, of course, that you have a psychological advantage because your opponent doesn't expect you to do it. More importantly, though, passing is easier. Oh, wait a minute. No, I thought for a split second we might see him dodge into the pit. But way out in the open there where the cars are running at top speed, we see, well, this is Heimrath again, so he's not in the story. But out there in the open spaces where you're running flat out, it's harder to get an advantage over another competitor than it is at close quarters when you're under braking. Here's Emerson. You know, this style with which he is pushing this car is so reminiscent of the way he used to drive the Lotuses back when he won his first World Championship when he was 24 years old.
Well, it's a darn good style, Sam, if the car just holds up. And of course, if it does, you have nothing but nice things to say about the team and the mechanics, because Emo is darn sure pushing it hard. That cat wants to win, I'm telling you.
Well, you know, some people drive a car easy and some drive it hard. It always seems to be the guy who had the rental car before you was the guy who drove a car hard.
Yeah, good point. Of course, his teammate, Kevin Kogan, is out of the race, broke down earlier with that spark box problem. So it's all, you're always a little bit scared when you know. And let's have another look at Al Unser Jr. making that pass
with the race cam.
Yep, that's his point of view. Now here he is. It's going to happen we're coming out of turn 1, turn 2. The pass is going to come going into the turn that's ahead of us now. That's Roberto Guerrero ahead of him. Now watch how quickly it all develops. You see the way he pulls in suddenly? And that, folks, is in a little bit slow motion, is it not? Yes, it is slow motion to give us a better chance at looking at that. And you see, Guerrero was doubtless, Bobby, don't you think, looking at the other cars ahead of him. And so Little Al capitalized on his fractured concentration and made the move.
And while we were looking at that, Danny Sullivan passed Pedro Guerrero to move into 4th place.
Roberto Guerrero, yes, indeed he did. There is Sullivan. That is not Sullivan there. There is the leader. Still Emerson Fittipaldi. So Sullivan has been on the move back as far as 8th in the early going. He is now 4th. Danny Sullivan on the move, just as is Al Unser Jr. Those are two men that have been coming up steadily throughout this day. There is Sullivan.
65th lap is Emerson Fittipaldi. As we look at Danny Sullivan, Fittipaldi is still leading the Cleveland Grand Prix. Well, it'll be interesting to see whether Fittipaldi can go the distance. His crew says he can. 16 laps to go. We'll pause for these messages and a word from your local station. Back live at the Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland, Ohio. Emerson Fittipaldi leading the Cleveland Grand Prix, which is in its 68th lap. 80 laps make up this event. Emerson Fittipaldi, last time we checked, was 17.38 seconds in front of Bobby Rahal. A very, very strong lead indeed. Now, this is a time when Bobby Rahal uses experience and he uses calm. You never see him get excited. Emotions do, however, play a major factor in racing and in the mind of a race driver. We asked Bobby Rahal to comment.
I don't think so, because I think, you know, I think the more, you know, if somebody passes you, you don't get mad. You know, if you get mad, then you're going to make mistakes, or you're going to, you know, try too hard, or you're going to... I think you've got to try to reduce everything down to the... I mean, sure, it's hard to get the emotion out of it. But I think the more emotion you can get out of it, get away from, the better off you are. The more you're able to react in a professional manner, the more analytical you can be. You know, just, I think emotion, but I think that's the same with any athlete. I mean, you see in boxing, some guy gets hit, and he gets mad, and he goes after, he forgets everything that he's, you know, learned, and he just goes after the guy, and the guy just keeps tagging him because he's dropped all of his knowledge. You know, he's letting his heart rule his head. And I suppose you can get away with that for a little bit, but I think in the end it's the guy who can remain as detached as possible as the guy who succeeds.
Succeeds? Yes, he does. 6 wins last year, including the Indy 500. And 3 in a row. Back to the lead, Emerson Fittipaldi. Bobby Rahal, by the way, has chipped a full second off the lead of Emerson Fittipaldi. It's down to 17 seconds. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
And Al, when you talk about emotions, an emotional roller coaster is taking place here in the Emerson Fittipaldi pit. Just moments ago, Pat Patrick turned to me and said, we have a problem with fuel. I quizzed him a little further, and he said, well, we're concerned. We've tried to slow Emerson down. He has not slowed down. The car does not sound the way they would like it to sound, and they are concerned. They are losing as much as a second a lap to second-place Bobby Rahal. In the meantime, the best observer throughout the day has been the 11-year-old son of Emerson Fittipaldi, Jason. Jason, what do you think about this problem? Do you think your dad's got a problem with fuel or not?
Nah, I think it's okay.
You've been here since summer vacation, traveling with your dad. We understand you now want to be a race car driver as well.
Yeah, maybe.
What's the best advice your dad's been able to give you if you decide to take a career in auto racing?
I don't know, racing and...
Be exactly like him, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's the story, and we're going to stay right here just in case a third and final pit stop is necessary by your leader. Back up to you.
Jack, in the future, I think Jason might have to let his driving do the talking.
I think, Al, this is kind of falling into place. It's going to make a lot more exciting race out of this than we thought. Emmo had up over 18 seconds lead. Emmo's down now to just barely 15 seconds. Like I say, they're losing a second a lap, but there's only 10 laps to go, so that means that he can lose a second lap with no problem and still win the race. But they do, in fact, have a little bit of a fuel problem, I think.
Okay, well, Bobby, assuming the fuel problem is for real, and I buy that it is, this is in many ways the worst-case scenario for Emerson, because he's turning the boost down, he's giving away his lead. If he does run out, obviously, instead of going all out, making a pit stop, and then coming back out and continuing to charge, he's slowing now, desperately hoping to stretch his fuel.
Yeah, but remember, a pit stop, even a stop-and-go penalty is going to cost him 30, 35 seconds here, so he can't give that away. The only thing he can do is shift the transmission a little bit earlier, turn less RPM, and have the boost down as far as he can. But my guess is, even if he ran out of fuel, he's not going to give up the lead just easy. He just won't do that.
Do you think he pushed too hard too soon?
Bobby? I think their pit strategy, in my opinion, was just off just a little bit. I think they should have gone a couple more laps before they pitted the second time.
In the last 4 laps, Bobby Rahal has made up 4.5 seconds on Emerson Fittipaldi. We are in the 72nd lap, and Fittipaldi's lead is 13.3 seconds. The Cleveland Grand Prix is approaching its conclusion. Emerson Fittipaldi moments ago crossing the start-finish line. When he did that, there were 7 laps to go. His lead over Bobby Rahal back up to 15 seconds. Moments ago, Tom Sneva spun. You remember yesterday he crashed. They repaired the car. He started today's race. We had a camera with Tom Sneva when the excitement occurred.
Actually, he got pushed from behind, didn't he? Yes.
No, he didn't.
You don't think so?
No, he didn't get hit. He just turned in a little bit soon and jerked the steering wheel, Sam. See, there's no damage on either car. I think what they did is they probably just jerked a little bit of his air out from under the back end of his car and just got him loose.
All right, here he comes down into that turn 3. I still sort of feel that, I still think he got hit from behind. Did you see how suddenly he moved the wheel?
Yeah, it's a possibility, but it just didn't look like it from watching the camera. We'll certainly hear about it when we talk to him if we don't know before that.
Sneva, of course, a great oval racer with an Indy win, 2 national championships to his credit, but he has never really caught on the road courses.
He's taken lessons. He's gone to driving schools. He's done everything. He certainly has tried to become a good road course racer, Sam.
Bobby, who is it now that makes these fateful decisions about Emerson Fittipaldi and his fuel? I mean, this makes a fascinating story. We've been talking about it up there.
Well, the guy that makes the decisions on this particular team is Pat Patrick himself. And Pat, of course, has been involved in racing for many, many years and had certainly one of the leading teams for many years. But I just think today, for example, that he's living some extra days or moments that he doesn't like to live because maybe they pitted him just a little bit too early the second time. He doesn't like to lose a tremendous advantage like 18 seconds. But he has to lose it now because they're obviously short on fuel. Now, the exciting thing is he going to make it to the end or not?
Pat Patrick, of course, the team owner, and incidentally a man who made his many millions in the oil business. It would be quite ironic, don't you think, Al and Bobby, should his man run out of fuel.
He loves motor racing. Pat Patrick is just the most avid motor racing man you could ever believe, and no matter what he does in the oil business, he wants to race cars.
Emerson Fittipaldi just crossed the line again. 5 laps to go now. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
Al, let me give you the update on the fuel situation. We've checked the tanks on Emerson Fittipaldi. There are 7 gallons left on pit road here in the tanks. So if he did have to come in, he could finish the race, but obviously he wouldn't finish in front. Back up to you.
Emerson Fittipaldi has got to be one of the most... there's Pat Patrick, the owner of the team, looking outwardly somewhat bemused, but inside, obviously, churning with emotion. Emerson Fittipaldi has twice won major kart races. He's won at Michigan on the 500-miler. He's won at Elkhart Lake. He dearly loved this one.
Pat Patrick's got that good poker face. I'll bet he'd be a good poker player. Certainly like playing poker when you play with these Indianapolis cars.
Well, we have 2 straight races yesterday on Wide World of Sports in the Firecracker 400. A race may have been won in the pits as Mario Andretti smokes now coming across the start-finish line. More smoke coming out.
Well, here's another race for Mario Andretti where he's gotten close to the end. Now, he has a Chevrolet engine there. We can't be sure. That's the problem with the Chevrolet, but making a point quickly that Emerson Fittipaldi is also running on Chevrolet power in this race, whereas his pursuer, Bobby Rahal, running the more established Cosworth engine. Could that be a factor?
I was going to just say that yesterday, Bobby Allison, with 8 laps to go, decided to put new tires on as Mario Andretti has come to a complete halt. So that race yesterday was won in the pits, and with this race today turning out the way it is, Emerson Fittipaldi's race may be won or lost in the pits as well.
So far, Al, this is going to be quite a turnaround. It's been so far this year that Mario, with the Chevrolet engine, has won at Long Beach, has had all the miles, doggone near won at Indianapolis. Emerson Fittipaldi or Patrick's cars, engine trouble all the time. Today, at least so far, he's definitely outlasted the Mario Andretti car.
So we're in the 77th lap of 80. How much fuel is left in the fuel tank of Emerson Fittipaldi? It could happen at any moment. Suddenly, there'll be no more fuel left, and he will come rolling to a stop, or he will have just enough, maybe fumes, to carry him across the line. When he comes across the start-finish line, this time, there will be 3 laps remaining in the Cleveland Grand Prix.
If anything happens to Emerson, it's going to really blow the championship apart because Rahal, already substantially ahead of Michael and Mario Andretti, will find himself even way further ahead here at the midpoint of the season. Even if, in fact, Fittipaldi lasts the race, this is a very, very good day for Bobby Rahal, and it's just this way the championships are won, by being willing to take a second place and not force your car for the lead, risking blowing up.
Fittipaldi passing slower traffic. Rahal trying to become the first man since Rick Mears in 81-82 to repeat as national champion. Rahal's trailing now Fittipaldi by 13.4 seconds as they came across the line to complete the 77th lap.
Emil probably doesn't think he has too much of a fuel problem because he hasn't been losing that second per lap, Al. He's only been losing maybe a half or quarter second per lap, so really he's picked up his pace, or maybe Rahal slowed down his pace. See, for all we know, Rahal's mileage may not be quite what it should be, too.
Emerson Fittipaldi, gentlemen, is one of the nicest men I have ever met. There is the whole Pat Patrick crew growing steadily. You see Emerson's son over there on the left. They're all growing more nervous by the minute. Emerson Fittipaldi once bailed me out of trouble. I was standing in an airport in Sweden. Another plane, which I had been scheduled to go on a charter flight with Jackie Stewart, had taken off, leaving me without my passport, without any money. He saw me standing there. I was just a young kid. He walked up and he said, "Sam, what can I do to help you?" And out of his wallet, he took $300, pressed it into my hand, found me a ride out of Sweden. I've always been indebted to him. He's a very, very decent man.
Did you pay him back?
Of course, Mr. Troutwig.
Okay, less than 5 miles to go now. 79th lap. This is Emerson Fittipaldi in the lead. He has not won a race this year. Last year won at Elkhart Lake, won the pole a couple of times, but only the victory at Elkhart.
He still has almost a 14-second lead, Al, so he's really not losing very much. Emil has a lot of confidence in his fuel right now. Otherwise, you'd see him slowing down a lot more than he's been doing.
Well, there's a warning light in there, which would warn him with about 2 laps to go. It would start to flicker and then come on solid. He may not be seeing that, or else sometimes those lights are broken, and so sometimes you just press on thinking it's okay, and it isn't.
This could be a great day for Chevrolet. If Emil finishes, it's going to kind of make up for some of the problems they've had all year.
1 lap to go, Al.
It is. The white flag has been waved for Emerson Fittipaldi. Now it's really nervous. He only has to go 2.48 miles, now less than that. Does he have the fuel? We've seen races before end on the last lap when the cars have run out.
They certainly have. Emil's got both fingers, both legs crossed, and he can possibly squeeze them closer together, I promise you.
Remember, we're not talking about a car of great mileage. We're talking about an engine that gets 1.7 miles to the gallon. So right now, with about 1.7 miles left or less, Fittipaldi would hope to have at least a gallon of fuel in his tank. Rahal, 12.87 seconds behind as the 79th lap ended. Fittipaldi going through the last few turns. Still seems to be moving along just fine.
This is going to be an immensely popular victory. Almost within coasting range now. This team has worked very hard, been dogged by a lot of bad luck this year. This is going to resurrect them very, very quickly and make them a factor from here on out.
Here comes Emerson Fittipaldi winning the Cleveland Grand Prix. His first victory this year on a track that has frequently awarded victory to players who have not won before or have not won frequently. Second place coming across the line is Bobby Rahal and Al Unser Jr. As we sit in the car with him, we will take you across the finish line with Bobby Unser's nephew. A good finish for him, Bobby.
Well, he's not quite there, but he's just there. He just went across Al. It's 3rd place. They've not had so good luck this year. They'll all be very happy with that.
So it is Emerson Fittipaldi winning, Bobby Rahal earning very valuable points on the driver's standing, and Al Unser Jr. finishing 3rd in the 1987 Cleveland Grand Prix. More to come in a moment. A crowd of about 50,000 on hand today under mostly sunny skies watching Emerson Fittipaldi win the Cleveland Grand Prix. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
Well, Emerson Fittipaldi, the first thing he did was get the congratulations from his 11-year-old son, Jason. Emerson, congratulations. A terrific victory this afternoon.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased. My Marlboro car ran perfect. The team had done a fantastic pit stop, and I'm really pleased.
The question mark, though, fuel. Your team, Pat Patrick specifically, said he was concerned that you would have enough to go the distance. Concerned was the key word. How about you?
As well, concerned, for sure. And the last few laps, I was just using very little revs on the engine, try to save fuel.
Your first victory came on an oval track. Then, of course, you had a road racing victory. How about this one today? How does it compare to some of your Formula One victories, the great ones when you went to the World Championship?
Very pleased to see him.
It's a very emotional time here in Victory Lane. Pat Patrick and the rest of the crew getting the congratulations. Let's go back topside now, and taking a look at all of this, you can see this is real important to these guys. Emerson Fittipaldi, his third career IndyCar victory. Let's go back up topside now for some comments from Al Trautwig and company. Al?
All right, Sam, you know, in every sport there are popular winners and there are not so popular winners. Emerson Fittipaldi certainly has to go down as a popular winner, a smiling guy, a very good-humored man, a man who's involved in fashion and frequently is the life of the party. There's a look at his son enjoying the victory as Emerson Fittipaldi, his dad, crosses the finish line. Now, Sam and Bobby, I've watched a bunch of races, but the last two Indy races I've watched from the pits. I can't think of a more exciting place to watch a race. When I see the Jason arms in the air, when I see Debbie Rahal watching Bobby win a couple of Indies ago, and then when I this year had a chance to see all the people rooting for your brother win Indy, that's where so much of the true emotion is, and you can see it in Jason there.
Well, it really is, and you know, our hat is off to the crew, the team. I mean, they played it close. They did a good job. They beat the car to death today, but it finished. That means that the crew did a super good job. The engine stayed together for the first time in a long time for Pat Patrick. The engine stayed together. Emil just drove a good race all day. Our hat's really off to them.
Sam, you talk about driving a car hard on a very hard course, a course that's bumpy and very, very rough. You think the car might give way, but it did not.
It did not. It's one of the March cars, and it has a very strong gearbox in it. The Lola was the car that had the suspect gearbox. Emerson Fittipaldi evidently felt he could push it that hard. It's amazing. You know, I like your point about why emotion runs so high after these wins. I think it's because, frankly, to win a motor race, the odds are amazingly against you. You're one car against 25 today, or at Indianapolis against 33. It's very unusual to win a motor race. And for this team, of course, winless to this point in this year, I mean, it's been a long time of back-breaking work, 24-hour days by 30 men. So, you know, when it happens, it's a big moment.
Now, of course, there's a lot more at stake today than just first place. We've got the national championship on the line, and according to our most recent calculations, Bobby Rahal's second-place finish has placed him still in first place now with 90 points. Michael Andretti 78, Mario with 62. So patience for Bobby Rahal really, really did pay off. Once again, let's take a look at the final results of the Cleveland Grand Prix. Emerson Fittipaldi winning. Bobby Rahal with a second-place finish and some important points. Al Unser Jr. with an encouraging third-place finish. Danny Sullivan looked like he might be coming on, but didn't have it in the end. Roberto Guerrero, for more than 50 laps, the leader, did not win. Michael Andretti, repairs never a factor. Neither was Tom Sneva, Johnny Rutherford. Mario Andretti, right in the top 5 for so long, finished in 10th place with his engine failing near the end. Then John Richards, Rick Muskiewicz, Scott Goodyear, Jose Legarza, Jeff McPherson, Ludwig Heimrath Jr. All these cars were not able to finish the race as you look down at the list of other drivers who did fall victim to the list of attrition. Let's go back to Jack Arute.
And take a look at this. Here's a good indication of just how tough this race is. Covered with perspiration is your second-place finisher, Bobby Rahal. It was a hot afternoon, wasn't it?
It was. It was a hard race. You know, right from the word go, had to run hard. And, you know, the car ran very well. The crew did a great job, as always. Just not quite enough today.
Not quite enough when you say that. Where do you think? Can you pinpoint where you were lacking? Was it engine? Was it handling? What?
I don't know. I don't really know because, you know, Roberto got away from us in the beginning, and it took me quite a while to get by Mario. I finally was able to do that. And I think once I was by myself, I could run fairly quick and catch up to him. But it's hard to spot some guy 8 seconds and get it back and then more. So I don't know where we lost it, but, you know, I'm very happy. Last year, we didn't even finish this race, so I'll take first or second.
Hey, momentum is still on your way. You're still gunning down that second consecutive championship. What do you think?
Well, right now, it's almost scary. We're so far ahead of where we were last year that we're going to work hard I know the crew's going to work hard, and I'm going to work my hardest to make sure that this is just as special a year as last.
Most of the race, or for part of the race, we looked over your shoulder, and you were getting jostled about pretty well in that car. In fact, you've shown a little bit of a cut above your nose here. Was it as bumpy as it looked like when we looked over your shoulder?
It's rough. It's real rough. By far the roughest circuit we're on. Hopefully they can get it fixed for next year, but I know towards the end of the race, each bump really hurts.
Maybe this shows that you're not only an excellent oval track racer, but a pretty darn good road racer as well. What do you think?
I would hope Jackie would say that.
Let's go back up to Al Trautwig. Al?
All right, Jack. Bobby Rahal certainly satisfied, finishing second today in the Cleveland Grand Prix. 15 of the 25 cars were running at the end of the race. There were 3 leaders, Danny Sullivan for a couple of laps, Roberto Guerrero for better than the first half of the race, and then finally Emerson Fittipaldi. The average speed held true for most of the race at 128.421 miles per hour. And of course the winner once again, Emerson Fittipaldi, in 1 hour 32 minutes 41 seconds. Final words in a moment.
We're back. I'm Jack Arute on pit road with your third place finisher of the Cleveland kart race this afternoon, Al Unser Jr. And Al, we saw you cross the finish line from inside the camera on your car, and you really waved to your crew. It was a good day for all of you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You know, we're working real hard. We got the new March, and we've been behind all year, and we keep sneaking up on it a little bit every race, and finally it was good. You know, we finally came up to a good finish and all that.
It's important to get some momentum going, isn't it? It looked like before we came to talk here that you gathered with your crew and you really talked to them and tried to keep them pumped up, because you're down to the home stretch now. The second half of the season, you've got to get some victories.
Well, it's true. What we got to do is get the car working and then, you know, go from there. The first thing to do is get the car working, and so that's what we've been fighting to do, and we seemed to sneak up a little bit on it today. You know, those guys weren't as fast today as they had been qualifying and all that. So, you know, we just got to keep working at it and get the car working. But the camera worked all day, huh?
Yeah, it worked all day, and there were great pictures.
That's good.
Let's go back up to Al Trautwig. Al?
Okay, Jack, once again, the final results of the Cleveland Grand Prix. The winner, Emerson Fittipaldi, Bobby Rahal, Al Unser Jr., Danny Sullivan finishing fourth, his best result of 1987, Roberto Guerrero, and Michael Andretti. The Cleveland Grand Prix was brought to you by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you, and by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. Today's race was produced by Bob Goodrich, directed by Larry Kahn. Our technical director, Les Weiss. Our associate producer, Ben Harvey. Our associate director, Jack Graham. On ABC's Monday Night Baseball, the Minnesota Twins take on the Yankees, or you may see the Dodgers take on the Cardinals. Check your local listings. Then following Nightline, join me on Monday Sports Night. We'll be talking to Billie Jean King and Greg LeMond, the only American ever to win the Tour de France. That all begins at 8 Eastern Time, Monday. Then next Saturday, ABC Sports starts your day with some of golf's legendary greats. Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, Chi-Chi Rodriguez, and more tee off at the U.S. Senior Open Golf Championship from Fairfield, Connecticut. Then following golf, on ABC's Wide World of Sports, the 1984 Olympic gold medalist Meldrick Taylor, undefeated as a pro, takes on Cubanito Perez in a junior welterweight bout live, except on the West Coast. Plus, the United States takes on China in men's volleyball, and we'll have the Athlete of the Week award. That all begins at 2:30 Eastern Time and Pacific, 1:30 Central, Saturday on ABC Sports. So we have a busy week ahead. Stay tuned now for local news and World News Sunday over many of these ABC stations. The Cleveland Grand Prix has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader